Kinetic Fusillade is still doing great. I've updated it to what I'm dubbing the Auto Blaster version, where I'm literally just holding down spacebar and we fly across the map, killing everything. This version is not that hard to set up, actually. It does require 1 or 2 small changes that I'll go over in the video today. The build is performing super well. I'm actually going to go over my strategy that I've been doing with Legion, which has been extremely good and fun. But the single target and the clear and everything is awesome. So that was like a 40-second map. If you want to set it up like this, there's a couple of things we need to do. First thing is, I'm now linking Lightning Warp to Spellslinger. So whenever we perform an attack, this will trigger and we move as we attack with our Kinetic Fusillade. Important thing for this is you need to take the spell slinging ascendancy point. This gives you enough reservation to fit it in, but it also gives you that 50% increased cooldown recovery rate that allows it to happen as quickly as it does. Another thing is keep this at level 1. Same thing with your tornado, mine's level 2, just for the mana cost, so that's nice and low. And another thing is lowering the mana cost of Kinetic Fusillade, because this can be a little bit mana intensive. You don't need to get it as low as this, where I have it down to 3. But one thing I've done is instead of using volatility, I'm using inspiration support. This is slightly less damage than volatility while on Radiant Ground with Wreathed in Light, but it does lower that mana cost quite significantly. You can also take this on the tree, Thrill of Battle for reduced mana cost of attacks, and then on Helmet, the Exarch Implicit for further reduced mana cost of attacks. All that combined lowers this very significantly, but there's one other thing we can get, which is minus mana cost of non-channeling skills. And I know what you're thinking, why am I using a Dusk Ring? Dusk Rings are very expensive right now. If you want to find an unmirrored Dusk Ring, these normally drop mirrored. If you sell 5 to a vendor, you get back an unmirrored one. And last time I saw, these are, yeah, they're sitting in like 8 divines. You don't have to use this. The reason I'm using this is because of the farming I'm doing, which is Legion, and I'm using Inspired Learning. So with Inspired Learning, we're stealing monster modifiers, which often means increasing our attack speed. Sometimes we get Soul Eater, which massively increases our attack speed. If we don't have the Dusk Ring, which in our left slot gives us 15% reduced skill effect duration, then our attack speed goes way too high and we start dropping tons of projectiles. If you really want to go this route, one thing you could do is not use a Dusk Ring, use a second Time Clasp instead. But what I would recommend instead is just use a normal ring with a minus mana cost, and then just don't use Inspired Learning. The way I crafted this, by the way, I just used Essence of Torment and spammed until I hit something good. Essence of Torment's giving us that lightning damage to attacks. I just happened to roll this with the Strength, Dex, and Energy Shield with an open prefix. So that's how I got that. Just to explain the impacts of this Dusk Ring and that additional 15% reduced skill effect duration. This gets our duration mod down to 0.12. We're sitting at 7 projectiles, 0.12, and 0.37. Our APS is 7.92. If we calculate it, this says you can get up to 429% increased attack speed before we are overcapped. So that's the reason why I'm using the Dusk Ring. If I didn't have this, let's just pop it off. All these calculations change quite significantly. So 0.27, calculate. This is still good, but we can only gain 51% increased attack speed. So our max APS with the Dusk Ring is effectively uncapped, but without it, it is only like 10. Speaking of which, I just showed you that Nemrod calculator. In the last video that I did, I showed you the in-game calc, which I didn't realize was there. This number is incorrect. The Nemrod calculator is right. I chatted to Nemrod about this. This is correct. The in-game PoB is not correct. So don't use this to calculate your max effective APS. It's not going to be right. This one is going to be right. So just, if you don't know what to look for, you can just hover over here. He's kindly placed these things. It shows you where to look. So that's for the Dusk Ring. Dusk Ring is not massively important, like I said. So don't break the bank, but it is really nice once you do juice farming, especially if you're using Headhunter, Shrines, all of those things. One other thing, when it comes to bossing, having your lightning warp linked to Spellslinger is pretty chaotic. You're often not standing in the right spot. You want to be standing on top of your wreathed in light radiant ground. So this can get you in all sorts of bad places. You can keep your cursor kind of on top of yourself to not move too much. If you want, you can do it like that, but it is a little bit scary because the moment you move your cursor a little bit, you suddenly start jumping in places you don't want to be. So for bosses, you can just take it out, but then the only movement skill you're relying on is Frostblink. You could swap that maybe for a Flame Dash or a Frostblink of Wintry Blast. Alternatively, if you have an empty socket, you could go like a Lightning Warp and a faster casting. But for bosses, I've just been taking this out and then relying on my Frostblink, and it's mostly been fine. Another change for bosses is I'm not using Inspiration. I'm swapping that, putting back in the Volatility, and using Wreathed in Light. Wreathed in Light is very good for mapping for the most part. But again, the strategy I'm doing Legion farming. I don't really have time to drop this and then stand on it and then shoot. So if you're going this method, what might be better is going with the Heart of Flame for the defensive side, and then the Jolting Ashgraft, and then use Wreathed in Light for bossing. So bossing, Jolt Ashgraft, Wreathed in Light, and then pop that out, put in the Volatility. The only other thing that is nice for Flask uptime on bosses is gain a Flask charge when you deal a critical strike while affected by precision. Just put in a level 1 precision. It only reserves 14 mana. It might be a little bit more or less depending on how much reservation you have. And this helps with Flask Sustain. Rolling your Flask is very important, and that prefix, chance to gain a Flask charge when you deal a crit. We are always critting, so these are helping us fill up our Flasks much more quickly. If you're doing a ton of bossing, I recommend taking off the enchants because these flasks are gonna be used when you don't want them to, rather just manually use them when you need that extra bit of burst. So our flasks get me up to about 72,000 evasion rating, but otherwise, when I'm mapping, I'm using this Inspired Learning. This is like a baby headhunter, and the 4 notables that I'm allocating are the Infuse for the power charge, Frenzy, Life, and Depth Perception. Now at this point, one other thing I am using is Herald of Ice. It's overkill, really. The way that I fit this in is with having a Reservation Helmet. You can get this suffix from Deafening Essence of Loathing. I started with this Fracture, Deafening Essence of Loathing, spam until I hit Suppression, and then I Eldritch crafted the prefixes, which is a bit of a pain, but there's nothing quite exactly like this. If you do want to fit in that Herald of Ice, you do have to get that, and you have to get this reservation down here, but it's really overkill. It's not mandatory. I am going to link this PoB in the description, this exact build that I'm currently using, and then I'll also link the build that I had a couple of days ago that was a bit cheaper, where I didn't have like this kind of helmet and these gloves. It was like all cheaper stuff. One other change, not really a change, it is in the PoB, but I'm using a different wand. This one is now Flat Cold, Flat Lightning, Penetration, and then Crit Chance, Crit Multi. This was a pretty significant damage upgrade. I did record this on stream. I'm going to edit that video down and upload it probably tomorrow morning. One other thing to add is the cooldown recovery rate of this is 0.29, but if we get this cooldown recovery rate of travel skills, that's an Eater of Worlds implicit, that will reduce the cooldown time even further. Might be a little bit excessive, and if I do get something like a Storm Shroud, I would rather go for Avoid Ailments and make Storm Shroud boots, but for now, that's probably going to be the best bet. For people who are struggling to scale their damage, I really want you to watch this video over here. I'll link it in the description. Kinetic Fusillade Elementalist Build Guide. In this build guide, I go in depth into the actual scaling of damage. So I'll take you through PoB itself. I know this seems very overwhelming, but I really want to recommend you watch this because it'll explain how to get your damage and also how to compare your damage to maybe builds that you see content creators share. They'll say like, why does this guy have so much damage? You'll be able to, if you watch this video, you'll at least be able to understand hit-based, attack-based builds. It's going to be different for like dot builds or poison builds, but at least this will give you a broad overview of this style of build. So please watch this. You can even just skip to the damage scaling section. You will learn so much from this and understand why you're maybe missing damage. It's going to be a little bit different in this video, compared to this one. But I promise you, if you watch this video, at least this section of the video, and then look at my POB, once you've understood where all that damage is coming from, you'll be able to say like, oh, Lolcohol is getting his damage from here and here and here, and I'm missing it over here, so maybe I should look at getting X, Y, Z. Please check out that video. You will learn so much by watching it. But now let's talk about the strategy that I'm doing quickly. It has been kind of tricky to find strats this league because I'm not super familiar with all the idols. One thing that I can recommend though is this site over here where you can see all the idols. This is an idol planner. So you can select like, I want to do Legion, for example, and then you can click a noble idol and you can see all the suffixes that roll on that and on the prefixes. You can go through these, see what looks good and maybe cobble up a strategy yourself. But what I've decided to do is I need to first talk about the scarabs. So I'm using additional Legion scarabs and then Legion Scarab of Officers to add 5 additional sergeants to my maps. And then the important one is Legion Scarab of Eternal Conflict. This makes it so that you can break monsters out of stasis multiple times. And each time you do, the monsters gain increased difficulty and reward for each time they're broken out. This has been decently profitable and really fun, but it is also quite rippy, especially if you overjuice the mobs. But it's been really fun. So I'm going to keep doing it. The idols that I'm using though, the big ones, the Conqueror idols, going for additional sergeants, additional sergeant, additional sergeants. These ones, what I'm looking for is Legion monsters take increased damage while in stasis, so that while they're in stasis, I can kill them more often so that they can gain more rewards from this. And then there's also ones that grant increased duration of Legion encounters. I think there's one over here. Yeah, Legion encounters have increased duration, so it lasts longer. They take more damage. I kill them more often while they're in stasis, get more rewards. One thing to point out though is if you have something like this, areas have a chance to contain ritual altars. This can take up space on your map and eat up some of the legions that you're using. So I'm actually using maps cannot contain expeditions and also rituals, because I could save these if I just had better idols, but that's how I'm blocking those. The other things you can get are Legion monster pack size or chance to contain a Legion encounter on your small ones. I'm wondering about maybe getting increased rarity from items dropped from Legion sergeants in your maps. I wonder if you stacked enough of these, if you start seeing Mage Bloods drop, not regularly, but sometimes. You might also be able to stack it with like Tormented Spirits or something else. But I can just hop in a map quickly, show you what this looks like. It's pretty chaotic. Also going Legion on the map device, red or blue, probably red because blue is horrendous. And let's just swap out this volatility. For the most part, I haven't been dying too much except when the map random modifier is something like damage is extra cold or lightning. That can be quite rippy, or if I overjuice it. But all right, let's just find a Legion. Another thing is these maps take a while to I clicked the wrong one. These ones take a while to loot after the fact. So there's a lot of legions. We click Legion, and then you just repeatedly kill them over and over. The Yoshabi Ascendancy is actually nice because you can see all the little icons. By the way, this strat, not super optimized. I'm not a Legion master, so if there's anyone in the comments who knows how to make this a little bit better, do let me know, because it would be cool to make this even more fun. So you can see, as I'm killing them, my frames are dropping. Hopefully we get as much loot as frames lost. And then we go. 3, 2, 1, loot time. All right. Oh, yep. Okay. We got Soul Eater. As you can see, my attacks per second is now... My attack time is 0.07. But my duration is 0.3. So we're not dropping too many frames. This thing, that blue donut, this blue donut is the worst mod for me. That thing kills me more than anything, because if you're standing on it, it completely drains your mana and you can't attack and you can't leech, and therefore you get wrecked. So That's one mod, if you do this strat on this build, to really look out for. I'm at the point of the league where I'm like, I'm level 95. I actually don't care if I die once in a while, as long as I am mostly not dying and farming consistently. We can do another one. Just killing the last few dudes. And then probably time to hopefully not die. Yeah, okay. Like I said, this is very rippy, especially if you overcharge it. Speaking about rippiness, I am still planning on going CI and Ward, but into sand. Oh no. Okay, wait. Maybe I overjuiced this one. Maybe I overjuiced this one a little bit. That's one thing to be careful about, because the monsters, I'm like probably killing them like 30 times. I don't know how much difficulty and stuff they're gaining. If you want, you can watch my stream from yesterday where I was doing this, and for the most part, it was really fine. It's just sometimes you get map mods or you overjuice and you get absolutely shreked. Or there's just some of these guys that can crit you. I don't know. Turn off the deli. Anyway, that's the strat. Doing this, I found lots of nice scarabs, nice divine orbs, plenty of exalts, lots of the stacked X and ornate incubators and fossils, everything. I think that if you do this enough, you would find some very, very, very nice items. But this has just been what I've been doing. If there are suggestions on how to improve it, do let me know, because I'm kind of winging it at this point. Anyway, I'm taking a long weekend, so I will be back next week, Monday. Next plans for the build are just improving gear, doing the CI swap, going Ward, maybe even go for like Headhunter or Mageblood instead of the Inspired Learning, or go Mageblood with Inspired Learning. That would be really good. Hope you're enjoying the build, and if you have any questions, yeah, I'll try to answer. Otherwise, like I said, join the Discord, follow me on Twitch. I'll be live most days. That's going to be it. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Catch you in the next one, and bye-bye.